Hey everyone, welcome back to D&D Daily English. I'm Dan, and sitting right across from me, as always, is Daphne. How's it going today, Daphne?
Very well, thank you, Dan. And I suspect today's topic might make a few of our listeners start browsing flight prices mid-episode.
Right? Because today, we're talking about travel. Specifically, why smart travelers in 2026 are skipping Paris and Rome and heading to places like Slovenia and Latvia instead. And honestly, as someone who's always dreamed of hopping around Europe but gets a little depressed every time I check airfares, this story hits close to home.
It's a genuinely interesting shift in travel behavior, and the data behind it is rather compelling. Shall we start with why the traditional hotspots are losing their appeal this summer?
Yeah, let's set the scene. So Europe is still the #1 summer dream destination for a lot of people, especially Americans. But getting there and enjoying it, that's getting harder. We've got overtourism, which just means way too many tourists piling into the same places. We've got soaring airfares. There's also the ongoing conflict in the Middle East, which is pushing up fuel costs. And on top of that, Europe is rolling out something called the EES system. That's the entry-exit system, which is causing longer queues and delays at borders.
All of which adds up to what the article calls headwinds for Europe's busiest travel season. A headwind, for our listeners, is something that works against you, like wind blowing in your face when you're cycling uphill. Unpleasant and exhausting.
Great analogy. And the numbers back this up. July flights from the U.S. to Europe are already down more than 11% compared to last year. That includes big drops to Paris, Dublin, and Rome, like the classic bucket list cities. People are still interested in Europe, but they're being way more selective about where they go and what they spend.
And selective is really the operative word here. According to Rome to Rio's 2026 Travel and Mobility Trends Report, searches for smaller cities are up 35% globally. The European Travel Commission has also noted growing interest among long-haul travelers in more local, less crowded experiences.
Which, okay, I totally get that. You spend all this money flying across the ocean, and then you're standing in a 2-hour queue to see the Eiffel Tower, surrounded by 1,000 other sweaty tourists. That's not a vacation, that's an endurance test. One travel expert in the article put it really well. People still want the Italy or France feeling, but without the squeeze.
Croatia was cited as a prime example, particularly areas beyond Dubrovnik, places like Korčula, which offers similar Venetian architecture and Adriatic coastline, but at a slower pace and with far fewer visitors.
And it's not just about the vibe. There's a real practical side to this too. Rising costs and what the article calls travel fatigue are pushing people, especially Americans, away from these crazy multi-stop whirlwind trips and toward slower, deeper travel. Fewer destinations, more time in each place. One CEO in the article described it as choosing depth over distance. I think that's a really nice way to put it.
It is, and that philosophy naturally directs attention toward countries like Albania, Latvia, and Lithuania, where average short-term rental prices are still below €100 per night, according to data from Price Labs. Compare that with Western European capitals in peak summer, and you're looking at significant savings.
All right, so let's actually dig into 2 specific destinations the article highlights, because these are fascinating. First up, Slovenia. And I'll be honest, before reading this, Slovenia wasn't exactly at the top of my list, but now I kind of want to go.
Slovenia is rather extraordinary for such a small country. It's roughly the same size as Wales, which, for our American listeners, is a small region in the western part of the United Kingdom. Despite its compact size, Slovenia packs in alpine lakes, mountain scenery, wine regions, and a charming capital city.
And the value is unreal. A 4-star hotel room in central Slovenia runs about $140 to $187 a night. Dinner for two at a nice restaurant? Around $60 to $80. A public transport ticket? Under $2. That's cheaper than riding the subway in New York City.
Travel experts frequently compare Slovenia's scenery to Switzerland and northern Italy, but the price difference is substantial. One luxury tour operator reported a 286% year-on-year increase in bookings to Slovenia. Their figures suggest it's about 15% more affordable than Austria and 25% more affordable than Switzerland.
Holy cow! 286%? That's not a trend, that's a stampede. And I love that the capital, Ljubljana, gets compared to Venice with its river-lined Old Town. Lake Bled and the Socha Valley are apparently more peaceful alternatives to Lake Como in Italy. Same beauty, way fewer selfie sticks.
Ha! Now, a second destination is Latvia, and specifically its capital, Riga. This one appeals to a slightly different type of traveler, where Slovenia is about outdoor adventure and alpine landscapes. Latvia offers culture, history, and what the article describes as a Nordic atmosphere without the Nordic price tag.
And the numbers are staggering. An average August room night in Latvia costs around $109. In Denmark, $218. Riga is 34% cheaper than Berlin, 50% cheaper than Oslo, and 46% cheaper than Dublin. For budget-conscious travelers, that's basically a different financial universe.
What I find genuinely interesting is that affordability here isn't a trade-off for quality. Visitors consistently describe Riga's restaurant scene as rivaling Copenhagen or Stockholm in terms of caliber, but at a fraction of the price. The price-to-quality ratio, as one traveler put it, is unbeatable.
And beyond the food, Riga has this incredible layered history. Hanseatic trading heritage, Art Nouveau architecture, Soviet-era landmarks. It's like walking through several different centuries at once. One local guide in the article described the Old Town as feeling like stepping into a fairy tale, but without the crowds you'd find in Prague or Bruges.
It's that combination of historical depth and relative accessibility that makes it compelling. Riga's past as a major Hanseatic port gave it an outward-looking mercantile identity, meaning it was built around trade and commerce, and that cosmopolitan character is still visible in its architecture and culture today.
Okay, so let's bring this back to something practical for our listeners who are actually thinking about travel. What's the big takeaway here?
I think the key lesson is that the definition of a good trip is shifting. It's no longer simply about visiting the most famous landmark. Value, ease of movement, safety, and authentic local experience are all becoming equally important factors in travel decisions.
Yeah, and honestly, as someone who's always felt the squeeze when it comes to travel budgets, knowing that places like Slovenia and Latvia exist where you can have a genuinely incredible experience without maxing out your credit card. That's exciting. It's not settling for less, it's actually choosing smarter.
Well put. And for our listeners learning English, today's episode was full of useful vocabulary. Words like overtourism, itinerary, immersion, and caliber. Try using them when you talk about your own travel plans or experiences.
Exactly. And if you want to review today's vocabulary list, it's all in the episode notes. All right, that's a wrap on today's D&D Daily English. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you next time. Take care, everyone.
Cheerio, and safe travels wherever you end up.